Good morning.
Good morning, Roshi.
Welcome. Glad you're all here. Glad you're all out there. So the topic of gratitude has arisen this morning as a topic. This is one of my favorite topics. I should probably give a warning that this may be more of a Roshi's view on life talk rather than a Dharma talk per se. I think we can certainly weave in Buddhism and Zen. But gratitude is actually one of the hallmarks of my existence. I don't think that I've heard it talked about a lot by my teachers. I have heard appreciation talked about. I think appreciation and gratitude are very similar. But I also just a couple weeks ago celebrated 20 years of sobriety. And so gratitude is a big part of 12-step work. I know that not all of you watching on YouTube and not all of you in this room are in recovery, so I don't want to alienate anyone or this isn't what you came here for. I'm not trying to proselytize you guys into 12-step rooms. I do, however, think that I can't really give a good talk about gratitude without discussing some of what I've learned in recovery about it. So do I have everyone's permission to ramble and meander? Okay, good. Nobody on YouTube gave permission, they just clicked off, but that's okay. Maybe you're still here. Okay, so enough of that. An attitude of gratitude, you can leave it on since there's people in there now, so you don't overhear them. An attitude of gratitude is something that's talked about a lot in recovery, and appreciation is something that Maezumi Roshi used to talk a lot about. So Taizan Maezumi Roshi brought our particular flavor of Zen from Japan, and he's so kind of is considered the root teacher of our lineage. And he came over here not speaking any English. He was the son of a temple priest in Japan. And there's kind of this romantic idea here in the West that if you become a Zen monk, you don't marry and you don't have children and you don't deal with money and all that. And there are people that are that way. There are monasteries that are kind of remote and out there. But those monks still have to come to town to get food, and they still have to entertain people from the lay life in order to support themselves. So you can't really get out of it. You can't really escape. I remember once when I was living in Portland, I was talking with a friend of mine who was a monk at the monastery in Clatskanie, and they would come down a couple times a week to do teachings at the Zen Center. I said, how have you been? He said, oh, very stressed. Things are very stressful at the monastery. And that's not a joke. He literally, things are very stressful at the monastery. You don't normally think about that. You normally think, everything's chill at the monastery. I said, why are things stressful? Oh, we've been having a lot of programs, and we had a couple of monastics leave, and we have a couple of new monastics coming in, and they don't know what they're doing. And like any other company, if a couple key people leave, and there's a couple of people that are new, it's going to be choppy. You're handling a large overflow of business, you're busy, it's stressful. So anyway, there's different kinds of monks. Ryan refers to me as a cowboy monk because I like to wear jeans and boots. He thinks my handle on the social should be Zen Cowboy. But I don't really love that because I'm not actually a cowboy. I just live in Arizona. Anyway, I digress. So Maezumi had the opportunity to inherit his father's temple and have kind of like a pretty cushy life. Like if you think about a parish priest, like an Episcopal priest. Catholic priests don't marry, but think about like an Episcopal priest who's got a church and has a family and has a parish and people they're helping. Funerals, weddings, whatever, right? So he could have just stepped into his father's shoes and just run the family temple. But he felt that Zen had become rather stale in Japan, and that he had heard that there were a bunch of hippies and beatniks here in the U.S. that were interested in Zen. So he thought, oh, I guess I'll go over there. So he went to L.A. and he first served in the local Japanese community, but over time he learned English and he started teaching American students, and he became one of the most prominent figures in Zen in the United States. So the order of lineage is that Maezumi Roshi taught Jutsudo Roshi, who is American. He taught Musai and Daishin, who were my teachers. I received Dharma transmission from Daishin, who, as you all are aware, passed away recently. So that's kind of the immediate lineage of all of us in here. But Maezumi Roshi was very fond of this phrase in Japanese, which is asa ni ko. I don't speak Japanese, so I'm relying on others who've told me this, but asa ni ko loosely translates as let us appreciate. So he would be standing there looking at a sunset or looking at something calming, and someone would walk up to him and asa ni ko, let's appreciate this. He actually wrote a book called Appreciate Your Life. Appreciate your life. All of us are living a human existence that is fraught. All kinds of problems. And this is not a glass half full, glass half empty Dharma talk, not a rah, just look at it differently. In fact, one of the things that used to really irritate Daishin Roshi, my teacher, was when people would say, it's all good. If you wanted to really get him mad, you could be like, hey Roshi, it's all good. He'd be like, because he thought it was annoying. He thought that it did not take into account dukkha, suffering, pain, challenges. But I have a friend named JP, whom some of you may know, who lives in New York City now. He was a student here many moons ago and then was a staff, and we stay in touch. And, he is someone who talks a lot about just staying positive. Staying positive. And one of the things he talks about is champagne problems, which is someone who's in recovery, he probably should pick a new phrase, especially when he's talking to other people in recovery like me, because I'm like, oh, champagne, that sounds pretty good right now. But champagne problems. We also talk about recovery problems. We talk about success problems. One of you was talking to me in Dokusan this morning about finals. How many of you are having finals right now? Right. That is very stressful, is it not? Why is it stressful? Not a rhetorical question. Why is it stressful?
Finals are the culmination, and they're the very last thing they can really decide if you did well or not.
Right.
It covers all the material.
Yeah, the pressure's on, covers all the material. For 4 months, you've been working so hard, and if you blow your finals, you might not even get credit for the course. Won't get a good grade, right? It's very stressful, right? But would you mind sharing with the group where you were a year ago?
A year ago, I had dropped out of all my college classes and wasn't even trying to push through finals, and was standing in front of my apartment window,
Right.
trying to jump.
Right. So, wouldn't you say that it's a better set of problems to have today?
100%.
Right. So you have finals to take. A year ago, you dropped out of school and there were no finals to take, and you didn't even want to take the school of life anymore, right? But this is very important. Nothing irritates me more than the kind of pop psychology, like just look on the bright side. And that's not what this talk is. Because it is stressful if you're in school dealing with finals. It is. If you have a successful business, Generally speaking, if someone says to you, how's it going? And you go, I am so busy, I don't even know what day it is. Which may or may not have, but definitely did happen to me earlier today, which is why the staff in the room were smiling, because I was like, well, it's Tuesday, I'm here. It's Wednesday, dude. Not only is it Wednesday, but you're always here on Wednesday, not Tuesday. But very busy, things are going very well with our new company, and people generally are like, oh, must be nice. And it is. Way better than the opposite problem, which is your business is doing poorly. Way better. And I'm grateful to have that stress. It's important to have the mindset of being grateful to have the particular stress you have. And it's important to not dismiss or become self-aggressive around, oh, I have it so good, I shouldn't be upset. It's like, well, yeah, okay, you have it good, but you still have responsibilities and things you need to do. And I don't think anyone in this room is worried about going to bed tonight in a place that you might not survive the night. Is that accurate? I mean, this is why the Buddha, when you read transcripts, which I put in air quotes because nobody actually wrote anything down that the Buddha said until about 100 years after he said it. So it's like, and yes, it's coming out of Hinduism, which was an oral tradition. So yes, probably some of the things we think the Buddha said, he did say, probably. But we have no transcripts. We have no audio recordings. But when you read also they've been translated a bunch of times, just like the Bible, right? So like, it depends on which version you read. But whenever you read the Buddha's talks, he always begins, O ye of noble birth. O ye of noble birth. Which is kind of an antiquated way of saying, all of you people who are doing well enough to hear what I'm saying. Everyone in this room right now has the time to sit and learn the Dharma. None of you are out digging a ditch at the moment. I have had the time to learn the Dharma. It doesn't mean we don't have problems that we need to address, but we should also note and be grateful that we can even have a moment to ponder our life. There's many people in the world who don't even have that opportunity. And furthermore, it's easy to say, oh, I'm glad I had the time with my teacher at the end. Oh, I'm glad I knew him. I'm glad I'm his Dharma heir, and I am. But it's a devastating loss for me. Like, I'm only human. And, of the three most influential men in my life, only one, my father, is still alive. My teacher and my father-in-law both left. It's very difficult. So how do we hold that paradox, that balance of, I'm very sad and it's hard to kind of get through the day, and I'm very grateful too? How do you hold that paradox? What if I had never met him? And by the way, what is it, 2024? Yeah, 100 years ago? No Zen. Well, let me rephrase that. It's interesting. Daido Roshi actually once, I heard him say, the Dharma was always here, we just didn't know. We just didn't know it was here. So we could say that the Dharma wasn't here, or we could say that it was here, we just didn't know. But this particular vehicle to learn was not here 100 years ago. It was in Japan, it was not here. For those of us in recovery who would probably be dead without 12 steps, it's easy to forget. Bill and Dr. Bob, I mean, that was like within the last 100 years that they met and had all these conversations and came up with this system of the 12 steps. So when I have my wits about me, I kind of go, I don't think I'd have much of a life if I had a life at all, if it weren't for the Dharma and the 12 steps. And like, how fortunate just to be alive right now. Not to mention the fact, and again, it doesn't discount all the suffering and pain in the world and war and all the things that all of us in this room go through every day. I'm not discounting that. But it is a widely established fact that there has never been a better time to be alive than right now. Widely established. Your chances of being killed in a war, your chances of dying of starvation, your chances of getting a nasty pestilent disease, way lower. And in about the last 100 years, the expected lifespan has about doubled for an American. So we're very fortunate. And again, we have to hold that paradox of like, I don't want everyone to leave this room just like, I'm so grateful, everything's great. Because we call that spiritual bypass, where you're just avoiding the problem by being enlightened. Oh, it's all good, man. I'm great, everything's great. Everything's great. By the way, if you want to see some examples of spiritual bypass, just go down to Chocolatry or any of the crystal shops. No offense, because I know you're going to be working at one of them. Do you work in one?
Black Ocean.
Well, listen, there's also a lot of people who really are on a genuine spiritual path filled with struggle and turmoil and grit. But there's also a lot of people who think they've really got it, and they haven't even started. Zendos are full of that too. I remember after my first Zen retreat, I was like, I understand. Everyone just needs to meditate, and the world would be a happy place. Everything would be fine. Just need to meditate. Just to be clear, anyone who's seeking has my support and encouragement. But we all have probably run into, if you've lived in Sedona for any time, people who behave in a certain way. And you kind of go, I don't think you're really struggling with the great matter. I think that you are kind of trying to avoid the whole thing by just being in this kind of vibe. And I have tried it. I've tried all the shortcuts. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, spiritual bypass. It's all good, man. Tried it all. Doesn't work. At least not for me. What works is to really sit with things, really study the Dharma, have a strong spiritual life. That's what makes your life better. And gratitude plays a very important part. But you can kind of tell when people are kind of high on gratitude. It's the sort of the saccharine, like, oh, things are so great. It's like when things are genuinely great, you can tell. When things are not so great and someone's trying to like repress it, you can also tell. So I don't want you guys to repress. I want you to hold both sides of the coin. Your two children are doing quite well overall, wouldn't you say? And yet you suffer.
Absolutely.
Why?
That comes with its own inherent stress.
Right. The greatest trick of life is raising a child who's successful. Because then you become obsolete and you have to deal with him not being around. It's awful and wonderful. But if we can appreciate what is good and not avoid what is challenging, then we really are getting somewhere. Because it's just like going to the gym. If you go to the gym every day and you lift weights and you eat right, what's going to happen? Are you going to get more out of shape? You're going to get more into shape, right? If you consume 5,000 calories a day and you never exercise, what's going to happen? Going to get into less good shape. I'm not judging it, I'm just saying it, right? If I play guitar every day for an hour, I'm going to get better. And I was really starting to think I was getting good. And then my teacher yesterday was like, I actually want to like work with you on some stuff that we haven't covered yet. And I felt like such an idiot. And I said to him, well done. Because I needed to be reminded of how much I still had to learn. And he wasn't being mean about it. He was just kind of trying to encourage me to not get complacent. Played pickleball this morning. There was this lady visiting from Seattle. She was sent from Seattle to humble the rest of us. I mean, what the actual H? We got smoked. And like the universal rule is whatever team she was on won. Didn't matter if she was with the worst player playing the two best, which is another lady and, you know, I'm just saying, right? Smoked. She was so good. There's always more to learn. So we don't want to rest on our laurels, but we want to put time into the things we want to get better at. If you want to get better at tolerating your own mind, sit on that cushion more. If you want to learn about how to work with your mind in a more intentional way, come to Dokusan. If you want to understand why you react certain ways to certain things, find a really good therapist. There's one in the room. Right? If you want your life to improve and change, you have to do things differently. Like, this is true. What we put energy into will flourish. So that brings us back to gratitude. Every single day, you have the opportunity to write down what you're upset about. And you can meditate on it, and you can stew on it, and you can and just embrace the dark side. Why not? If you want to live your life that way, you can. Lots of people do. You also have the opportunity to focus on what is not wrong, what's going well. Everybody imagine for a second that you've got just the worst toothache you've ever had. I mean, this tooth has got to come out. You can't think about anything else. Killing you. And you can't eat, and you can't talk, and you can't sleep. Just everybody with me? What would be the one thing that you would be desperate to do?
Get rid of the pain.
Right, get rid of the pain. Get to the dentist. Get the tooth out, or get them to fix it. Okay, so does anyone in this room actually have a toothache? Raise your hand if you have a toothache. I have cured your pain. Aren't you relieved? Isn't it such a relief that your tooth isn't like that anymore? But we don't think that way. I have a tear in my right shoulder that my orthopedist tells me it's not worth operating on it right now. He's like, give it another 10 or 15 years, let it get a lot worse. Then we'll clean it up. Because his concern is if we do it now at the age that I'm at, we'll just need to do it again. And it doesn't bother me a lot. Like, it doesn't hurt right now. Like, let's just wait until it's intolerable and then we'll do it. And then you won't have to have another one because you'll die. I'm like, you're a bit morbid. Anyway. But it does bother me, and it is getting worse. The other day, I had a little pain in my left shoulder. And I just noticed, I was like, it's so interesting that I give no energy to the fact that my left shoulder works perfectly well. I give no energy to it, but I think about my right shoulder every day. Every day. I'm like, ugh. Why do I have to have this problem? I can't serve like a fiend. All I can do is just lob it in there. I can't lift like I want. I don't think about, well, it's a good thing I don't need to have surgery. It's a good thing that my left one isn't. I don't think about it. I haven't been sick, knock wood, in a very long time. Almost a whole year. Longer than a year. Because I got tired of I had got COVID 5 or 6 times. I got tired of getting it. I have asthma. I'm susceptible to any respiratory things. I saw this naturopath. I got on this like very potent immune supplement regime, which I still do. Hardly ever get sick. I don't think about it that much. But when you're sick and you finally get better, you're like, oh, everything tastes so good and everyone looks so beautiful and life is so wonderful. But what's not wrong? You're not sick today, right? I write a gratitude list every morning, 10 things that I'm grateful for. It's a practice I learned from my friend Chris Kale. Chris plays in a heavy metal band called Five Finger Death Punch. Anyone ever heard of them? He's coming He'll be giving the Dharma talk in a few weeks. He's coming to share his story with you guys. He's an awesome guy. But I learned this from him because he writes one every day and he sends it out. And I just got in the habit of wanting to send him one back. And it changed my life. If you really want to be starting to focus on gratitude and change the wiring of your brain, which as we've talked about, you don't have a fixed self, so you can actually change your brain. Studies have shown that monks who meditate a lot or lay people who meditate a lot, like the structure of their brain changes. And I think it's the same when you're focusing on gratitude. Again, not to eliminate pain and suffering, because you can't, but just what are you going to focus on? What are you going to put the emphasis on? Those of us that have been married for a while can tell you that, like, you know, there's things your partner does that annoy you. It's a really good practice to go, I'm glad that I have someone to be annoyed by. Because there's many people who've never found someone, or their person died or they got divorced, who would kill to have someone annoying them. Most of the time she does not annoy me. She's wonderful. But I mean, 22 years is a long time. You're going to get things that annoy you after a while. But I remember years ago saying to Shugen Roshi when I was very early in my practice, and my girlfriend at the time was about to go abroad for 4 months, and I was really upset about it. And he was like, you know, you're lucky to have someone to miss. You know, focus on that. What is not wrong? What are the situations you've resolved that were bothering you a month, a year ago? Think about that stuff. Having a practice, having a facility to come sit in, having clothes, having food, having shelter, all wonderful things to be grateful for. And you can train your brain to be grateful. When I was getting absolutely smoked at pickleball this morning, there were several points or rallies where I played really well against a vastly superior opponent. Lost the game, but was very grateful for those points because I don't normally need to play at that elite level to compete with my group, right? So that's how we grow. And I really literally and one of my friends, the other one who's really good, literally threw her racket at one point this morning.